The evil plan that a woman came up with to get rid of her husband was actually discovered by the cops. They pretended to be him, and she had no idea. This is one of the many reasons why you should never mess with the police. Welcome back, I'm here. And today we are going to look at Be Honest. We will also look at some other reactions, so make sure to stay until the end. But first things first, let's jump into the video. It all started when a man called the police and told them that his wife had vanished. He told the police that he hadn't seen her since the night before, and he was beginning to get worried. The police decided to come along and check out the situation. When they arrived, they could see that there were no signs of forced entry, and nothing seemed to be missing. So the only logical explanation they could think of was that she had simply run away. But this didn't seem likely because she had left her phone behind. The husband told the police that he had no idea where she would have gone or why she would have done this. As the hours passed by, the husband began to get very angry. He kept telling the police that he knew that his wife wasn't just gonna run away for no reason. He said that he had recently taken out a large insurance policy on her life, and that this must have something to do with it. The police continued to search the area, but as the night wore on, it became clear that they weren't going to find her. So they eventually went home and told the husband that they would continue to search in the morning. He woke up early the next day and immediately called the police station to ask for an update. They told him that they still hadn't found anything, but that they would keep looking. He then hung up and went to the kitchen to make himself a cup of tea. As he was waiting for it to boil, he looked out of the window and saw something that made him freeze. It was his wife's car. She had come home in the middle of the night without waking him up. He was furious and marched out to confront her, but when he opened the door, she wasn't there. Instead, he found a note on the table that read, "Don't call the police." He was confused and scared, so he called the police and told them to come over as soon as possible. When they arrived, they searched the house and found his wife's body in the basement. She had been strangled with a rope and was already dead. The police arrested him immediately. At first, he tried to convince them that he didn't do it. But when they found his fingerprints on the rope, he broke down and confessed everything. He told them that he had killed his wife because she had been planning on leaving him for another man. He said that he couldn't take the thought of her being with another man, so he snapped and strangled her. The police were shocked, but they had no choice but to believe him. After all, his fingerprints were on the rope. But then something strange happened. While they were taking him to the police car, one of the officers noticed something odd about his clothes. He had what appeared to be mud on them. He asked him about it, and that's when the man broke down and told the officer that he had actually killed his wife the night before. But he had waited until the morning to report it so that the police wouldn't think he had done it. He said that he had been planning on killing her for a while now, but he had finally snapped when he found out about the other man. The officer was stunned. He had no idea that the man had been planning on killing his wife for a while now. He then called the other officers over and told them what the man had confessed. They were all shocked and angry. They had been investigating the case as a murder-suicide, but now it seemed like they were dealing with a cold-blooded killer. The man was arrested and taken to jail where he awaits trial for his wife's murder. But here's where things get really interesting. After the man was arrested, the police began to investigate his story. They checked his alibi and found out that he had been at home at the time of his wife's death. They also found no evidence that he had been planning on killing her for a while. In fact, they couldn't find any evidence at all that he had killed her. This left the police with more questions than answers. If he didn't kill his wife, then who did? And why did he confess to a crime he didn't commit? As the days passed by, the police began to piece together what really happened. They found out that the man had been having an affair with another woman, and that his wife had found out about it. She had confronted him and told him that she wanted a divorce. The man was devastated and didn't want to lose his wife, but she was adamant about leaving him. In a fit of rage, he snapped and strangled her. He then called the police and reported her missing, hoping that they would find her alive. But when they didn't, he panicked and confessed to the crime. The police were relieved to finally have the answers they needed, but they couldn't help but feel sorry for the man. He had confessed to a crime he didn't commit and had been in jail for weeks. They let him go and apologized for the mistake. But as he walked out of the police station, he saw his wife's car. She had returned home after all. He was shocked and confused, but before he could do anything, 2 officers came out of the station and arrested him. He screamed and tried to explain that he had already confessed, but the officers didn't listen. They threw him in the back of the car and drove him to jail. When they arrived, he refused to come out of the car. The officers opened the door and dragged him out. He fell to his knees and begged them to stop, but they didn't. They threw him in the cell and locked the door. He was then left alone in the dark with his thoughts. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He should have never confessed to a crime he didn't commit. Now he would never get a chance to prove his innocence. As the hours passed by, he began to panic. He started banging on the cell door and screaming for help, but no one came. He was trapped in the cell with his own guilt. He wished he could take back what he had done, but it was too late. The damage was done. And that is the story of a man who confessed to a crime he didn't commit. What a crazy story, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's move on to the next story. She had planned everything out perfectly. She had chosen a secluded spot in the woods where no one would find her body. She had also made sure that she had no witnesses. But she had made one fatal mistake. She had underestimated the cops. She had called 911 and told them that she had been kidnapped by a stranger while she was out for a run. She had given them a detailed description of the man who had attacked her and had even managed to provide them with his license plate number. The police had quickly apprehended the man, and he was now sitting in a police car, handcuffed and being questioned. As she watched the police drive the man away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had played the perfect victim, and she knew that the police would never suspect her. She had chosen the perfect spot to hide her body, and she was confident that her plan would work. She had put on a brave face and had even managed to fool her friends and family. They had all rallied around her, offering their support and condolences. But she knew that they were only doing it because they thought that she was a victim. As the days passed, she began to feel a sense of pride. She had gotten away with murder, and no one was any wiser. She knew that the police would never catch the real killer, and she was safe. But then something happened that she never expected. The police had made a breakthrough in the case. They had found evidence that linked her to the crime scene. She had left behind a small piece of her clothing, and it had been found by a dog walker. The police were now questioning her, and she began to panic. She had done everything she could to cover her tracks, but it was too late. The jig was up, and she knew that she was in trouble. She had tried to run away from her past, but it had caught up with her. She had thought she could get away with murder, but she was wrong. And that is the story of a woman who was caught after pretending to be a victim. Thank you for watching, and please remember to share this video with your friends.